worm dieth not, and the fire is not quenched, stopped. For everyone shall be salted, see, for everyone will be salted with fire. Salted, seasoned, flavored, internally, externally with fire. And every sacrifice will be salted with salt. All right. Salt is good. It says wisdom and grace in speech, exhibited in speech, is good. But if the salt have lost his saltiness, its flavor, wherewith what will you season it? All right. Have salt in yourselves. Preserve yourselves. Have wisdom and grace exhibiting in speech within yourselves, and have peace one with another. All right. I'm in Ecclesiasticus 39. 24. Really want 26, but we're going to read 24. It says, as his ways are plain unto the holy, the clean, so are they stumbling blocks unto the wicked, the evil. For the good are good things created from the beginning, so evil things for the sinners. The principal things, the main things for the whole use of man's life are water, fire, iron, and salt. What type of salt? Salt. Wisdom and grace exhibited in speech. Salt, flour of wheat, honey, milk, and the blood of the grape, and oil and clothing. All these things are for good to the godly. So to the sinners they are turned, they are changed into evil or wickedness. All right. So again, um, salt, the definition. Salt with which food is seasoned and sacrifices are sprinkled. Wisdom and grace exhibited in speech. Alright. Salt, the impure salt of the ancient, of the old, could become tasteless in adverse conditions and its residue useless. Alright. So now let's swing over to 2nd Ezra 7. And 7 and 18. Before we read 7 and 18, I'm going to give you the definition of that. It says of a word, and it's straight, narrow, close, not broad, narrow. Straight is the gate, and narrow is the way that leadeth to life, and few there be that find it. All right. Close, intimate, has a straight degree of favor. Strict, rigorous. All right. Difficult, distressful, straight, not crooked. A narrow pass or passage, either in a mountain or in the ocean, between continents or other portions of land. All right. Distress, difficulty, distressing, necessity. All right. To put to difficulties. Straight. Straight. Straightness. Narrowness, straightness of a place, straightness of mind, straightness of circumstance. Strictness, rigor, as the straightness of man's proceedings. Distress, difficulty, pressure from necessity, needs of any kind, particularly from poverty. All right, like famine or no food, no food. Want, scarcity, or rather narrowness of the straightness of the convenience of life. And so, there you have it. So let's go to 2nd Ezra chapter 7. And it says here, it says, I'm going to read 16. Why have you not considered in your mind this thing that is to come, what's going to happen in the future, rather than that which is present, which is now? Seek the kingdom and everything will be added unto you. But we need to be looking at prophecy and what's to come, the future, rather than that which is now. But it's important what's going on right now is what we were saying that was coming in the future, the mark of the beast and sword, famine, and destruction, everything that Christ prophesied, right? Verse 17, then answered I and said, O Lord, that bearest rule, you have ordained in your law, and his commandment, that the righteous should receive these things, but the ungodly should perish, should die. Nevertheless, however, the righteous shall suffer straight things. That means the difficult things in the definition that we read, right? Strict things. Right? Rigorous things, and hope for wide. So the righteous shall suffer. They're going to go through pain, persecution, affliction, through difficult things, strict things, rigorous things. All right? Necessities, difficulty, and hope for wide. Hope for wide. Freedom, liberty, and why it could also be heaven. For they that have done wickedly, non-righteous, have suffered. That means went through pain, affliction, trouble, tribulation, trials. They have suffered the straight things, the necessities, the difficulties, the strictness, the narrowness, the rigorous, the difficulties, danger, and yet shall not see the wide. They're not going to see heaven. So I'm going to look at the definition again. Straight means strict, rigorous. Alright. Difficult, distressful. A narrow path. or passage. Like an alley or one way. It says straight, to put to difficulties, need, scarcity, distress, difficulty, pressure from necessity, needs of any kind of particularly from poverty. All right. So, the righteous shall suffer straight things, difficult things, and hope for wide heaven, right? Freedom. For they that have done wickedly have suffered the straight, the difficult things, all right? And still shall not see the wide. They're not going to see freedom, heaven. And he said unto me, there is no judge above God, the Most High, and none that have understanding above the highest, the Most High, the Ancient of Days. For there be many that perish in this life. There be what? Many that die in this life, because they hate what? They despise the law of God, the law of the Most High, that is set, placed before them. They love the law of the land and the government, but they hate the law of the Most High that is set before them. Yeah, it's right before them. 21. For the Most High have given straight commandment. That means strict, narrow, rigorous. What was it? Straight, strict, rigorous, straight, not crooked, difficult. All right. To put to difficulties is STRAIT, straight. All right. So I'm going to go back. It says, for the Most High have given straight commandment to such as came. Those that came or enter into the world, what they should do to live. He gave strict, rigorous commandment to such as came, what they should do to live. Not crooked. He gave straight commandment, and it's narrow, and it's close, and it's near. And sure, it could be difficult, but it's strict and rigorous. So you can't say he didn't. So for the Most High have given straight commandment to such as came, what they should do to live. To do what? To live, even as they came. And what they should observe, see, view, behold, to avoid punishment. To avoid punishment. He gave you strict, rigorous commandment so you could avoid punishment. 22. Nevertheless, however, they were not obedient. Who is they? The world, Israel, the heathen. Who is that? Nevertheless, they were not obedient unto him. Unto who? The Lord of spirits, the one that created all. But spake against him, the highest, the higher, and imagined vain things. They planned, they schemed, they devised, they created vain things, empty things. They thought on empty ideas and deceived themselves. They did what? They deceived, they fooled, they tricked, they trapped themselves by their wicked deeds. Wicked what? Works, actions. And said of the Most High that he is not. What? And knew not his ways. Knew not his what? His ways, his paths, his custom, his laws, his commandments, his statutes. They knew not his ways. Even if he left the Bible, even if he sent his son, they killed him. He died, he rose again. Right? And they still knew not his ways. But his laws they have but his laws, the Most High's commandments, have they despised, they hated it. Why did they hate it? Because the law, it was straight, it was strict. They despised it, but it was for them, so they could avoid punishment. But people don't want to avoid punishment; they want to be punished. So the Most High is letting loose these vipers with the venom of this Jim Jones juice, and he's letting them bite you. So, but his law, his commandments, his law, statutes, commandments have they despised, and feast days, holy days, and denied his covenants, his agreements, and his statutes, and have they not been faithful, and have not performed his works. And therefore Ezra, or Israel, or whoever's listening to this, for the empty are empty things, and for the full are the full things. All right. So let's get back to the salt. All right. Wisdom of Solomon 10:7, of whose wickedness even to this day, to this very day, September 11, 2021, even unto this day, the wasteland that smoketh is a testimony, is proof, is evidence, and plants bearing fruit that never come to ripeness. And a standing pillar of salt is a monument of an unbelieving soul. He's going to make more monuments of unbelieving souls soon, because this place is Babylon. All right. Salt is good, but if the salt have lost his savor, with what shall it be seasoned? All right. Genesis 19:26. But his wife looked back from behind him, Lot, and she became a pillar of salt. She became a pillar of salt. And who's the judge? Christ. Christ turned her to a pillar of salt. She looked back. Her mind, her spirit wasn't upon the kingdom of the Most High. Genesis 19:26. But Lot's wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And I ain't talking about good salt. I'm talking about what did they say? The impure salt of the ancient could become tasteless in adverse conditions, and its residue useless. She became useless. All right. She didn't. She didn't have her mind set right. So she didn't have the salt that she needed to preserve herself. Alright? Israel, ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost its Savior, with what shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing. The wisdom and grace in your speech is good for nothing. Right? If the salt loses its flavor. But the salt is but to be thrown out and to be trodden under foot of men. All right, Colossians 4:6. Let your speech be always with grace. With what? With grace, seasoned with salt. With what salt? What was it again? Seasoned with salt, wisdom and grace exhibited in speech. Wisdom and grace, that ye may know how you ought to answer every man. Alright? Got to tame your tongue. And answer them with wisdom and grace. Salt that can preserve. Let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt, flavored with salt, that ye may know, preserved with salt, that you may know how you ought to answer every man. James 3:12. Can the fig tree, my brethren, bear olive berries? Either a vine figs? No. So can no fountain both yield salt, water, and fresh? Right? Let me read it again. Can the fig tree, my brethren, bear olive berries? Carry olive berries? No. Either a vine carry olive berries? Figs? No. So can no fountain or mouth both yield salt, water, and fresh, corruption and pure. No. Right? 2 Chronicles 13:5. Ought ye not to know that the Most High Power of Israel gave the kingdom over Israel to David forever, even to him and to his sons, by a covenant of what? A covenant of salt. All right. Ezekiel 43 and 24. And you shall offer them before the Most High, and the priest shall cast salt upon them, and they shall offer them up for a burnt offering unto the Most High.